Well, welcome to Cohere. This is episode 2 of our series of conversations that we're having here at Greenacre. In the midst of our global pandemic, Greenacre, which is a place where people normally are gathering together in groups and talking about the big issues of the day. Of course, we can't safely gather people together, so we decided that we would begin to explore some of these kind of questions in this new format and explore. So this is the second episode where we're going to be exploring the Nowruz letter from the Universal House of Justice and how it applies to the conditions that we're experiencing today. Oh, my name is Robert Shapiro, and I'm the administrator at Greenacre, and this is my dear colleague.
Hi, I'm Claudia, and I serve as outreach coordinator at Greenacre, and I'm happy to be here today to continue the conversation.
And we have a special guest with us today. Hyacinth, do you want to introduce yourself?
Of course, my name is Hyacinthe. I used to live at Greenacre as well, but now I live in California.
Yes,
and we miss you, so we're so glad to have you with us in this format. So Claudia, maybe you can share a little bit about what we were thinking about talking about in terms of the letter and a particular portion of it.
Yeah, so this letter, we received this letter for Nowruz from the Universal House of Justice, which is the governing body of the Bahá'í community. And we are exploring. Last week, we talked a little bit about how the letter was sharing a very hopeful vision for the future after we come out of this pandemic and, just kind of how to keep our eyes in the horizon. And we wanted to go a little bit deeper into how to, what are the practical terms, how do we practically take this letter into action, and what are some of the experiences that we've been having with it. We wanted to kind of read another part of the letter, which is towards the end of it. And it was, actually, I'll just read it off. And he shares, "May your minds be ever bent upon the needs of the communities to which you belong, the conditions of the societies in which you live, and the welfare of the entire family of humanity, to whom you are all brothers and sisters." And I just wanted to open up the conversation with us and talk a little bit more about how this translates to our lives, and how we are, reading the realities of our communities, and how we are being of service, and how we're being served by others, during this time.
It is quite profound if you look at it in terms of, the meaning of it. So how do I know the need of my community and the condition of society in which I live? This is not something that is very conceptual. It has to be very practical. Because if I want to know the need of my community, I need to live in that community. I need to experience that community. I need to, to know people on every part of, the communities, all the component of the community. I need to know it, so I can basically understand exactly what is happening there. And of course, the condition of society, of course, that's come, next to it. And one of the things that I was thinking about, especially in this situation, I was talking actually to having conversations with some of the family in Chicago, the family from Central African Republic. They are refugees from Central African Republic who moved to Chicago. They are not Baha'is. They're, friends of the faith. And the friends in Chicago basically have been working with them and, serving, the neighborhood, and all these parents are sending their children, to children classes and the Junior Youth Empowerment Program. And with this situation happening, the parents, basically, they don't have a job anymore. So they are now staying home. And, it's a complete new reality. But what the friends did were that, they basically have the list of all these, the parents and, their phone number, the contact number, since they cannot go personally and meet them like they used to do. Now they are calling them and organizing, FaceTime with them and listening to them and, talking to them and, praying with them as well, asking the parents also to pray. So all of them are now, communicating and, having, the spiritual communion, as we say in French, with all these parents. And the parents, they feel so supported. I call some of the parents to talk to them as well, because they speak, the English is a bit limited. So I call them, to talk to them and to translate, some of the conversations. And the parents are so happy that, these friends are there, reach out to them, to talk to them, to, to encourage them and, be there for them. And especially for the junior youth, and talking to the junior youth as well, and giving them some of the homework that they can do. And some of these youth basically working with the junior youth on the, school, assignment and all of that. So it is so practical. You can see that it is very practical. It is not something that is just conceptual. It is practical. People live it every single day. And, talking to them, I realized, I say, wow, this message is exactly, the friends are practical, practicing exactly what the message is asking them to do. If they didn't live in that community, if they didn't serve that community, they wouldn't see that need to be able to, to talk to the parents who are so desperate. They don't have a job, they don't have money, but because, the friends has been there and serving them, understanding their need, they immediately reach out to the parents, to have a conversation with them, to be there for them, to support them in any way that they can. So it was something that, when I was reading the message, it came to my mind based on a conversation that we had a few days ago. So.
No, that's so wonderful to hear that and to see how the sort of these community building efforts that are happening here in Maine, happening in Chicago, happening in the Central African Republic around, the spiritual education of children and the empowerment of junior youth at 11 to 14-year-old age. But because of those community relationships, those family relationships that have formed by trying to build community together, as we enter this crisis, all of a sudden we can help each other, be there to support each other.
Absolutely.
And then having gained a little bit of practice with, creating devotional spaces together where, we're all sort of having this communal conversation with God, right? So then that can translate to phones, to FaceTime, et cetera.
Yep. And you can imagine, at the practical, you were talking about, being practical, some tangible examples. And this is what happened. You have someone from Central African Republic who came all the way here. They are refugees. They don't speak much of English and all of that. And you have people here, Americans, who reach out to them to embrace them and, take care of the needs of the children, helping the children with their homework, and as well as, engaging the junior youth, those, between 11 or 12 and 15 that you were talking about, and helping them just not, study and building their character, but helping them with their the homework as well. Who can imagine something like that to happen, really, in the society, in the world that we live? But it has become a part of a community, the life of a community, that we live for each other, we live to serve each other, and it has become so practical that. At the beginning it was quite difficult, but now it's so, people are, friends. We are literally family. And exactly as about the quotation was saying, we are brothers and sisters.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's wonderful how it's also, like this, these examples also illumine how we are, like the sentence right before that, like this quotation that I shared talks about, our spirits, like having staunch spirits and stamina to continue to these efforts that we had been, working in creating devotional spaces and developing the devotional character of our communities and to create these spaces where junior youth feel empowered to be of service to the community and the youth as well. So I feel like it's so nice to hear how we are continuing these efforts and being creative in continuing to build communities through a virtual world now. But and like just finding different ways to continue to build those communities that we all need for for our well-being and for blossoming and for empowerment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one other thing that I think we talked about it last week, very informal settings, is that we even Sam, CL and I, being in California, we just we moved here not almost a year ago, and the community that we live in, we with these situations, you will see friends, bringing us vegetables and fruits and, coming and putting them, front of our door. Or, sometimes, we hear a knock at the door, you get out, it's basically our neighbors, they knock at the door and they went back a little bit and stay back there just to find out how we are doing. And it's so touching to see something.
Yeah.
And you see the way that, people are praying, even those who usually think that, they don't consider themselves, believers, are now part of the spiritual communion that, we are all having together. And especially Zoom or any other, technological tools that we have in our disposal are being used basically, to create those space where people come together, either to pray or to have this kind of discussion that we are having right now and discuss the condition of their neighborhood and try to understand what are the needs of their communities and how they can basically address those needs in their community at this particular moment. So it has been quite very challenging at time with the reality, but if you look at the effort that people are putting to be of service to their neighbors and to humanity in general, it has been quite extraordinary.
I feel like there's sort of been, just going out on walks in here in this little town in Elliott. Every time I go out, even though we're all supposed to be, we are all staying at least 6 feet apart from each other. Every time I go out, I have a conversation with a neighbor, and everybody is we're, I guess, we're in the midst of this shared experience that's so intense. But I feel like there's this kind of it's almost a community life that I would like to just have naturally, right? Because of the crisis, but then also seeing how what the Baha'is around the world have been encouraged to do, how important it really is, in the midst of, I guess, sort of this I don't know what the right word is, the materialism that's so strong, where everyone is or is so stuck in their own little material world. We wouldn't necessarily reach out to our neighbors and see how they were doing. We wouldn't, drop off face masks that people had made. We wouldn't, see if they need groceries. We wouldn't, just say hello to them even, right?
Absolutely.
But I feel like this, being in this crisis has sort of kind of woken everybody up from a dream in a way.
Absolutely.
Right? Oh, wait, we want something else to be happening here, and we can actually do it.
Yeah. So we have. I was having a conversation with a friend, and one of the things that I was, sharing is my experience coming from Central African Republic with the war. At some point that we had to run for 2-3 days because the fighting, the rebels, and the armed groups, and you have to run for 2-3 days straight. And we were having that, that conversation. And I was saying that, thinking about this, the message that we are talking about, the need of the community is that, is this situation that has created such a confusion, the fear in people, even our own neighbors. But based on my own experience in, dealing with those kind of crises, it's basically, telling friends in the community, telling our neighbors that, it will come to pass. It is okay. It's, we need to follow all the policies that have been put in place for our own safety, and also have the faith that, this will come to pass. It's not the end of the universe. It is not going to be the end of the universe, but it will come to pass. It is scary for sure because we don't see what is happening. But it is not the first time that something like this has happened. It will, and it won't be, the last. But this is the way that it is. But we need to have faith. We need basically, to trust that it will come to pass and we will be okay. But do the right thing, follow all, the instructions, the policies, and, whatever that the guidance that has been given by the professionals. So, and that's one of the need that people are scared, but they need someone who has experienced those kind of things to reassure them it is okay, it will go away.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that seems like a wonderful note to kind of end our sort of official conversation with. We can stay together for a few minutes after our official conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. So, thank you so much for sharing. And I think it's a great reminder that that we will get through it. And it's just in the spirit that we go through it, that will allow for different things to different opportunities to come out.
Absolutely.
As we continue forth. Yeah. And we'll continue our conversation next week. We have constructive resilience. I think it's what we're gonna be talking about next week. So stay tuned for that.
I look forward to the link, and I will be going and listening.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. That's great.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you.